Do you have 100 hours to burn? Want to get fully immersed in a game while also knowing you can wander off to get some toast whenever you want? Well friend, these are the turn-based RPGs that will completely take over your life. It's no secret. When you need a break from saving the world, there are few better ways than with an Atelier game, and this one is a pretty good starting spot. You play as an ordinary farm girl who longs for adventure. A chance encounter leads to her discovering her aptitude for alchemy, after which she and her friends embark on a variety of low-stakes adventures. Now, you've probably seen or at least heard of a few slice-of-life fantasy anime at some point, but Atelier Ryza is your chance to play it and live it. While things do eventually get a bit more serious, this is predominantly a slow-paced, cozy RPG. The real-time turn-based combat evokes classic Final Fantasy's ATB, and like any other Atelier game, you'll find an incredibly robust and addictive alchemy system where your crafting chops will yield powerful gear to dominate the battlefield. There's no better time than now, really, to settle down with some Atelier Ryza, especially Everdarkness and the Secret Hideout, as the game has also just received a DX release that adds exclusive new content. Larian's 2023 magnum opus raised the bar for RPGs worldwide. You could probably tell if you've been on this channel for more than half a video. Using the 5th edition of D&D as a base, Baldur's Gate 3 weaves an incredibly well-written story driven by a mind-boggling amount of player freedom. You play as a character captured by mind flayers and infected with a tadpole that will eventually transform them into a mind flayer themselves if not removed. How you approach the journey to find a cure is up to you, even if that means being an absolute bugger to everyone around you. That player freedom also extends the game's complex yet compelling combat, which, in addition to your massive repertoire of skills and abilities, lets you make full use of the environment, whether it's through tossing enemies off cliffs or blowing up entire encampments. And unlike most games we're covering today, it has got co-op, so rather than just pestering your friends about how amazing this game is, you can bring them on board and embark on the journey together. What a breath of fresh air. Breath of Fire 4 holds up as one of the most beloved PS1 RPGs, and it distinguishes itself from the rest of the genre with some interesting twists on the traditional JRPG formula. For instance, character customization in this game involves letting your party members become apprentices to masters found across the world. Through these mentors, your characters will get stat boosts and new skills by fulfilling various tasks. Combat, meanwhile, features a back row system where you can swap characters in and out of combat. Fighters in reserve are unable to act, but regenerate HP and AP every turn. Using skills and abilities can also create combos, each with different effects. Though the franchise as a whole continues to languish in obscurity, Breath of Fire 4 did see a re-release on GOG, ensuring that newcomers and veterans alike can always return to this classic. This 1995 Super Nintendo masterpiece hardly needs an introduction, but I'm just giving it one anyway. So, with industry legends like Hironobu Sakaguchi, Yuji Horii, and Akira Toriyama involved, Chrono Trigger had an incredibly talented team behind it, and the results really speak for themselves. This time-travelling epic streamlines the formula that defined the SNES Final Fantasy games. You got turn-based ATV combat, a beautiful pixel art world that continues to stand the test of time, and an unforgettable story. Where Chrono Trigger differs from its cousins is in just how snappy and fast-paced the game feels to play. Enemy encounters are seamless, the world map has no random encounters, and the game moves at a brisk pace with barely a wasted moment, clocking in at just about 20 hours for a full playthrough. Not many RPGs can boast the same conciseness, but those who still crave more at least have multiple endings to see. It's just too bad that the only sequel we got, while still good, is nothing like one of the SNES's most beloved games, just to be clear.
Ready to parry.
While turn-based RPGs are more popular than ever now, there's a distinct lack of titles that feature more realistic character designs and AAA-esque visuals in a fantasy setting. Sandful Interactive's goal of recapturing the vibes of games like Lost Odyssey was an admirable yet daunting effort, and it didn't help that Bethesda Shadow Dropped Oblivion remastered a mere 2 days before Clair Obscur's scheduled release. As we all know by now though, Clair Obscur defied the odds and took the world by storm. Stunning visuals, a haunting soundtrack, and top-notch voice acting helped the game's story about grief and loss enrapture audiences. Turn-based fiends got their fill with a combat system that incorporated dodges, parries, and enough flexibility in character customization to break the game wide open if you wanted to. Clair Obscur's rousing success has turned heads all across the industry, and it seems inevitably poised to go down as an old-timer that's still fondly remembered decades later. It does get a bit boring to sing its praises, but they're praises for a reason. Dragon Quest has remained consistent and stalwart over the decades, but has still seen its share of change and evolution. Dragon Quest VIII marked the series' transition to full 3D environments and character models, and while its predecessors had great stories in their own right, VIII's edition of full voice acting gave everything a bit more cinematic flair. Dragon Quest VIII character building also deviates a bit from past entries. Where 6 and 7 had vocation systems to fully customize your team, 8 gives you a party with predefined rules, and a skill point system that gives you some wiggle room in their weapons and abilities. Other presentational flourishes have helped the game remain as charming today as it was back in 2004. It was the first entry in the series to feature full orchestral music, and also the first to follow a new standard of localization that would define the series in the years since its debut. Dragon Quest VIII is a high watermark for the series, and the next game you should play if you're looking for something similar to the likewise excellent Dragon Quest XI. You're bound to like this next one too. Over 30 years later, Earthbound remains one of Nintendo's most beloved games. Gamers who were accustomed to fantasy RPGs in this era had their hearts captured by Earthbound's then unique urban Americana-inspired setting. On your journey to fend off Gigas' alien invasion, you'll fight a wide variety of eccentric enemies, from corrupt cops to zombies and even living piles of vomit. Yay! If you're familiar with how RPGs work, you'll have no trouble getting into Earthbound. Shigisata Itoi's masterpiece does have a twist up its sleeve though. Character's HP is rendered like an odometer in battle and rolls down when hit. Should a character take a mortal blow, they won't actually be KO'd until their HP completely rolls down to 0, giving you precious time to use Healing Psy on them. Though there are many imitators and homages today, Earthbound's atmosphere still feels distinct, with a charming story that still holds up today. While Fallout today is seen by some as, somewhat reductively, Skyrim with guns, the series was turn-based once upon a time. The year is 2241. Your story begins in a village suffering from a record-breaking drought. The Elder names you the Chosen One and sends you off on a quest to retrieve a Gek. That's an item thought to be able to change the wasteland into a paradise. While the main story has its own linear progression and ending, what you do in the world from there is largely up to you. As you'd expect from an RPG like this, there are tons of side quests to encounter, and compared to Bethesda's efforts, your choices in Fallout 2 have heavier consequences on the world. Battles, meanwhile, use an action point system where you can attack, move, or use items as long as you have points left. Fallout 2 is definitely showing its age today, but it still remains a beloved classic, one that at least a few diehards would argue is better than nearly everything that came after. Objectively, better than 76 though. That was terrible. Look, we all know how amazing Final Fantasy VI is by now, so how about this instead? Did you know that its second half in the World of Ruin wasn't initially planned? It came about because development was coming along smoothly enough to allow for extra time to implement the concept. The end result is fondly remembered for a reason. With dark and mature themes underpinned by a current of hope, Final Fantasy VI was ahead of its time. The use of an ensemble cast also allowed for a level of non-linearity in tackling character episodes and rebuilding the scattered party in the second half. Meanwhile, the fundamentals of combat and character customization of 4 and 5 were refined and given an extra twist. Party members can equip Magicite to learn abilities and gain stat bonuses on leveling up. It's all brought together by a timeless soundtrack and visuals that have stood the test of time as well. Final Fantasy VI should be your next stop if you're yet to play it in any form. Before there was Octopath Traveler, there was Live Alive for the Super Famicom. Both are turn-based RPGs built around standalone vignettes, but while Octopath gave players an overworld to explore and a party to form at their leisure, Live Alive stories are separated by era. You'll explore wildly diverse settings with distinctive gameplay gimmicks, from ancient China to a spaceship in the distant future. It's all brought together by a simple turn-based battle system where characters and enemies can move about on a 7x7 grid. There's no MP system to limit what you can use, but some skills take time to charge up. Though not as well known as Square's other RPGs, Live Alive has quite a legacy behind it. Its banger soundtrack was Yoko Shimomura's first major work at Square, and one of those tracks, Megalomania, would eventually inspire Undertale's Megalovania. Its director, Takashi Tokita, meanwhile, would eventually direct Chrono Trigger. Despite being trapped in Japan for decades, the game would finally live another life when a remake brought it west to a much wider audience. Make sure this one isn't lost from your library. This Xbox 360 exclusive, often seen as the Final Fantasy XIII that never was, featured the involvement of Hironobu Sakaguchi, father of Final Fantasy, and Nobuo Uematsu, Final Fantasy's most iconic composer. And it is a banger. Lost Odyssey tells the tale of a group of amnesiac immortals who find themselves struggling against one man's attempts to manipulate his way into world domination. Though a solid story all around, Lost Odyssey's best writing is found in A Thousand Years of Dreams, memories of the protagonists that are presented as text-based short stories. Lost Odyssey features traditional turn-based battles with some interesting twists. Mortal characters learn new skills by leveling up, but immortals need to equip accessories or link up with their mortal companions to learn those abilities. A simple timed button press adds engagement to combat, but otherwise this is the turn-based Final Fantasy game that fans wish Square Enix would complete. Lunar Silver Star Story has it all: adventure, romance, and classic turn-based battles. Our story begins in Berg with protagonist Alex dreaming of becoming a legendary Dragon Master. After his friend convinces Alex to join him on a trip to the local cave, Alex is given the chance to make that dream come true by the dragon living within. What ensues is a simple yet classic JRPG story of love triumphing over evil. The turn-based battles are pretty simple stuff, as your party has the typical attack, skills and magic, and a basic positioning system adds a minor level of strategy on top. Where Lunar really shines is in its writing. Though such localization changes wouldn't fly today, publisher Working Designs went through great lengths to spice up the script, adding in irreverent humour and pop culture references. This, combined with the game's heavy use of anime cutscenes, made for an experience that was incredible for its time.
Thinking time. And done.
Octopath Traveler presents an interesting premise. Pick one of 8 characters to start, journey across the continent, recruit the others, and experience everyone's stories in a mostly non-linear fashion. JRPG parties often feature people from wildly different walks of life, but Octopath's structure emphasises this fact, making character interactions all the more fascinating. Unfortunately though, the original was marred by design choices that stopped all but the most dedicated players from seeing many of those interactions, and its true ending was ruined by the core cast's complete lack of reaction to seeing the story's lore culminate in major revelations. Octopath Traveler 2, on the other hand, was everything the first game should have been. The turn-based combat, which emphasises hitting enemy weaknesses to stun them and saving up BP to power up your skills, is as fantastic as ever. But the real star of the show is the much improved story, with more interesting vignettes, an improved finale, and extra stories that spotlight character pairs. Thanks to these improvements, Octopath Traveler 2 stands as Square's best HD 2D game, and perhaps one of the best in their whole history, maybe for the next 1,000 years. In the decade since its release, Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door has never arguably been bettered. Its grand adventure to gather the crystal stars boasts some of the most charming writing in the sub-series, while the gameplay refined the turn-based battles of the original Paper Mario. As with the original game, Mario is accompanied by one of several potential partners, and the pair have a wide arsenal of moves to take on all challengers while dazzling the audience. New to Thousand Year Door was the fact that crowds would gather to watch every single one of your fights. The more you please the audience by succeeding in timed button presses, the faster your star power will refill, letting you use the power of the crystal stars to further turn the tide of battle. But some of these viewers are also unruly, interfering in fights by tossing stuff at the stage or messing with stage props. Despite the incredible legacy that Thousand Year Door left behind, its sequels sadly never even attempted to recapture the same kind of magic, as all of them gradually stripped away Paper Mario's RPG identity. This masterpiece sees a group of socially outcast teenagers gain the power to enter people's minds, so they adopt the role of phantom thieves who steal treasure to change their target's cognition and force them to reckon with their many crimes. 8 years on, Persona 5's vigilante tale remains as relevant and cathartic as ever. Rather than reinvent the wheel, Persona 5 polished the formula to one of the finest scenes in Atlus's entire catalogue. You'll still be going to school, forming relationships with people around town, and then using those bonds for dungeon crawling, but you'll be doing it in style with some of the best UI and presentation in all of gaming. And these dungeons, or palaces, are also some of Atlus's best. While a randomly generated labyrinth is still present, the bulk of the places you'll infiltrate are handcrafted, complete with puzzles and stealth sequences. An updated re-release, Persona 5 Royal, sweetens the deal by adding in an extra arc and dungeon, as well as tons of quality of life changes. It is absolute gold. These remakes of Pokemon Gold and Silver stand tall today as the most polished and feature-complete Pokemon games. Owing to their status as the second mainline Pokemon games ever released, Gold and Silver were home to a number of unusual quirks, such as the inclusion of Kanto as post-game content. This and other fan-favourite mechanics over the years were not only faithfully recreated here, but expanded upon, making HeartGold and SoulSilver some of the most content-packed Pokemon games ever. You've got all 493 Pokemon to date available here, and areas in Kanto that had to be slimmed down in the originals are present in these remakes in their full glory. Plus, these games would mark the final appearance of the beloved Battle Frontier post-game area. It's all the more unfortunate then that Nintendo, the Pokemon Company, and Game Freak haven't made a habit of re-releasing older Pokemon games on newer systems, especially given that the modern games have set the fan base on fire for all the wrong reasons. Suikoden was a fantastic turn-based RPG with a unique premise. In your journey to liberate your home country from tyranny, you'll recruit 108 Stars of Destiny, people who are fated to leave an impact on history. Many of these characters add essential features to your home base, and a huge chunk are even playable in battle. While Suikoden's plot still holds up well today, it walks so its sequel could run. Suikoden 2 expanded just about everything. Its dark story featured more mature themes, its main antagonist is one of the genre's most memorable, and the rest of the main cast are significantly more developed. Suikoden 2's combat still holds up well too, with fast and snappy battles despite having you filled up to 6 characters to make a team. Characters can be placed in the front or back rows, with their personal ranges dictating what enemies they can attack. With the release of the remaster earlier this year, Suikoden has seen a resurgence. There's no better time to play than now.
Here, Estelle.
For 21 years, Nihon Falcom has been weaving something truly special in their corner of the JRPG world. The Trail series, now at 13 entries, tells a vast and interconnected story filled with dozens of characters spread out across 4 different countries, enriched by some of the best world building out there too. This year's Trails in the Sky first chapter, a remake of the very first game in series, marks the new best starting point for newcomers on this incredible journey. As in the original, this remake stars Estelle and Joshua, a pair of siblings who join the Bracer Guild, an organisation dedicated to protecting civilians, be it through killing monsters or taking on a variety of requests. Though still a slow burn like its source material, the remake's complete combat overhaul works wonders in making the game more exciting for newcomers. In addition to the absolutely cracking turn-based battles, a simple action RPG combat system lets players gain the advantage on enemies before entering turn-based mode. With its direct sequel also being confirmed for a full remake, Trails in the Sky First Chapter is the best time and place to start your Trails journey. Originally pitched as a concept for Final Fantasy VII, Xenogears became its own sprawling RPG whose legacy can still be felt decades after its lead creatives left Squaresoft. Xenogears starts like your stereotypical JRPG with amnesiac protagonist Fei Wong Wong living in a peaceful village that's very quickly burned down. But that's where the cliches end, as the rest of the game is an unbelievably complex dive into ancient conspiracies, character psychology, and heavy philosophical and religious symbolism. Could you tell I wasn't ready for a word with as many syllables as philosophical? No, I played it off pretty well, I thought. This was a story ahead of its time, and one almost too ambitious, as its second half was infamously streamlined into a bunch of lengthy cutscenes and exposition dumps to meet deadlines and budget constraints. Still, when you're actually playing it, it is a great time. Xenogears' combat system features light, medium, and heavy attacks, and stringing them together forms flashy combos called death blows. Frequent sections with giant mechs also add fuel management to the equation. Though arguably showing its age compared to Tetsuya Takahashi's later works, Xenogears has a boldness to its themes and narrative concepts that few games today dare to emulate. It's not often that a franchise abruptly and completely shifts genres with a new entry, but hey, we do have a video for you if you're interested in that. And it's even rarer to see an official proof of concept for that shift in an April Fool's Day video of all things. But that's exactly what happened with Yakuza Like a Dragon, the 7th mainline entry in the series, and the first to star a new protagonist, Ichiban Kasuga. Yakuza Like a Dragon's gameplay is a fusion of the series' city exploration and classic turn-based combat. Characters all have a variety of jobs, each with their own over-the-top skills that embody the franchise's wackiness. Positioning is also a major factor in battles, as characters move about the battlefield on their own, and will use environmental objects to attack enemies if possible. Though a bit slow to start, and bogged down by a couple of major difficulty spikes later in the story, Yakuza Like a Dragon marked an incredibly successful transition in what is now one of Sega's powerhouse franchises. Also, it just totally rips off Mario Kart at one point. Brilliant. Outro gang, those are just some turn-based RPGs that you should be checking out. We of course wanted to just make it one entry per franchise just to make it interesting, but if we still missed any out, be sure to let us know down below. And you can help out your fellow RPG fan by helping them maybe find their next big obsession. I've been Jimmy, been good to have you, and I'll catch you in the next one.